What happens after the crisis ends? You know, when the alarms finally stop ringing and the dust settles, what happens when people forget exactly why their hard-won wisdom mattered in the first place? Tonight, we're stepping into the final movement of an extraordinary explainer journey. This isn't a story about power or victory. It's a story about what actually deserves to endure.
In the world of Eldoria, the grand tests have been survived, but right now they're facing something much quieter, something far more insidious. We're talking about the invisible threat of comfort.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What happens when promises survive, but the true understanding of them just disappears? When beautiful traditions stick around, but the core purpose behind them quietly dies?
This brings us to a fascinating theme we really need to unpack, the third deep question, which is all about the architecture of memory.
If you remember back in the first book, characters like Alex Mercer asked a deeply personal question: what should one person do? Then, the lens widened in Book 2, asking, how should systems behave? But Book 3? It asks the ultimate existential question: what actually survives after that wisdom becomes comfortable?
There's a beautiful line that captures this perfectly. It goes, Book 1 whispered through time, Book 2 echoed through systems, but Book 3 begins when both become music. Pretty incredible, right?
So, let's dive into why great systems forget. It's this completely invisible tragedy that happens all around us.
You've got to ask yourself, why exactly do good systems fail? I mean, it's not always villains or spectacular movie-level disasters, is it?
Well, it's actually because success creates comfort, and comfort, that creates routine. Over time, that routine hardens into a rigid ritual, and eventually, those rituals totally lose their original meaning. You see, decay doesn't usually begin with a massive crash. It begins with a yawn.
People will carefully preserve the words, the ceremonies, the outer forms, but they completely forget why those words exist in the first place. The empty shell survives, while the actual wisdom quietly disappears.
Which leads us directly to this absolutely crucial idea of noticing the invisible cracks.
Because honestly, the most dangerous kind of decay isn't some apocalyptic collapse. The most dangerous decay is comfortable decay. It's simply the act of forgetting, which happens entirely in the quiet. But we can actually see the weak signals everywhere, if we just know how to look. It's a frayed wire rubbing under a scooter seat, a tiny scrape on a stone bridge, an unspoken fatigue, or even a child's quiet resentment. These are the little bells ringing long before the system breaks. This is exactly why truly strong systems don't worship alarms, because, let's face it, dramatic warnings almost always arrive way too late. Instead, they develop attention. They learn to notice those tiny, everyday cracks well before the collapse ever arrives.
Now, let's talk about the anatomy of broken promises, which is really about a failed system of return.
When you really think about it, what exactly is a broken promise? Is it just a personal moral failing? Just a lie?
According to the deep wisdom in Eldoria, it's not merely a moral failure. It's actually a failed system of return. Think about it. People offered up their trust, but that promise never found its way back to them. The loop was broken. As Mara discovers deep in the archives, repair begins when the promise finally finds its way back to the people who trusted it. It isn't just offering a quick apology. It's actively building functional, reliable return paths so that trust can travel home again.
This brings us to a really beautiful concept, a symphony of listening, and how we coordinate our truths.
You see, true harmony is not everyone making the exact same sound. That's just a monolith. That's conformity. Real harmony is different sounds, totally different truths, finding a relationship that doesn't destroy the song.
A system absolutely must keep returning to the human purpose that justified its creation in the first place. The very moment a rule, a map, or an institution forgets the actual people it is meant to serve, well, it just becomes a trap.
And finally, we arrive at playing the open chord, building a legacy that truly survives us.
There's a brilliant guiding principle here. What must not change protects dignity. What must change protects life. You have to lock down the core principles that protect humanity, but you absolutely have to leave the methods open to change so the system can breathe. And we can practice this in our ordinary, everyday lives through something called the legacy loop. It's simple but incredibly powerful. Learn from reality. Live the lesson in small behaviors, repair the damage caused by haste, teach what you have actually tested,
serve where ability meets need, and crucially, renew the method when the world changes.
So we have to ask ourselves, can a civilization be saved not by one perfect mythical hero, but by ordinary people practicing repair together, simply by people learning how to listen? The chord remains open, waiting for all of us to play our part.